2 minutes. Huh? Ready now? Start? You have cartels? Okay. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunjabi Hari Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhari Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Kunja Vihari Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhari Gopijana Balabha Girivara Dhari Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jasodanandana Brajajanarandana Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jamuna Tira Vanachadi Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Madhava Kunja Vihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Vihari Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahansa Pariviragacharya Astatara Sri Srimati's Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnavarinda Ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Gaur Premanandi. Canto 10, Chapter 14, Prayers of Lord Brahma. The original preceptor of our sampradaya, the engineer of the entire universe, the original recipient of all the Vedas, is offering a whole chapter's worth of prayers to Krishna, following his becoming bewildered, Brahma Vimohan Leela. And so far we've covered two sections, and we'll do a little quick review of those two sections. This is the way that we described it before, 1 through 8, how to know the unknowable, who possesses unlimited potencies, and the answer is it's through bhakti, it's not through gyan, or through mystic power, comparing our mystic power to his mystic power, but by revelation through bhakti. Here's a verse, Brahma speaking to the personality of Godhead, Lord Vishnu, Canto 3. O my Lord, your devotees can see you through the ears by the process of bona fide hearing, and thus their hearts become cleansed and you take your seat there. You are so merciful to your devotees that you manifest yourself in the particular eternal form of transcendence in which they always think of you. So the hearing creates cleansing. Cleansing in the mature stage is the Vasudeva state, and when one has achieved this Vasudeva state of cleansing, Krishna makes his appearance, just like in the mind of Vasudeva, or in the mind of Dhruva, etc., etc. This is the standard sequence, and the process of hearing is particularly being recommended by Lord Brahma. So the first section was this: Lord Brahma has taken full shelter of the bhakti process, abandoning speculative attempts to know the unlimited. That's 1 through 8 in a nutshell. And then he offers apologies, 9 through 12. Now he's going to go into the next stage. This is asserting that Krishna is the original Narayana. Now, different parts of the Vedas and different sampradayas that hold in high esteem those different parts of the Vedas, the Vishnu Purana, Padma in particular, Sattvic Puranas, they speak of Narayana as the source, and the Bhagavatam is identifying Brahma's prayers in other places within the Bhagavatam. Krishna is the Adi Narayana, or the Adi Purusha, the original personality of Godhead. So we're just going to be covering 3 verses, but it's very significant, and we're going to go about it in a different way than we've been doing. So 13 through 15. Here's the translation. My dear Lord, It is said that when the three planetary systems are merged into the water at the time of dissolution, your plenary portion, Narayana, lies down on the water. Gradually a lotus flower grows from his navel, and Brahma takes birth upon that lotus flower. Of course, he's Brahma. Certainly, these words are not false. Thus, am I not born from you? So there's two main features in this verse. Who is Narayan? And Krishna is that original Narayan from whom Brahma takes his birth. So Narayana can indicate the Lord of Vaikuntha, but Narayana is Krishna's expansion, shown to Brahma in Vraja when Krishna showed him all the Vishnu forms, just like this image shows. Krishna already showed to Brahma, I am the source of Narayan. All these Narayan forms shown in the image, each of the calves and each of the cowherd boys manifesting Narayana forms while simultaneously manifesting the cowherd boy forms. They are all Krishna's expansions, and he's the original Narayan. So Narayan is Krishna's expansion. That's what one feature which he saw. Krishna revealed it to him, so he's now speaking it back to him. And that very same Narayana is another name as an expansion of Krishna. Another name for Narayana is the Narayana can be used to identify the form of Vishnu. There he is, form of Vishnu who lies on the Garbhodak ocean, who then generates from his navel the lotus upon which Brahma is born. So Narayana is the Lord of Vaikuntha. Narayana can also refer to Garbhodaksha Vishnu, from whom Brahma is born, and therefore, I am your son. You are my father. So here's the purport from Bhagavatam. Now remember, this is not Srila Prabhupada's commentary. It's Prabhupada completed up to chapter 13. So this is the disciples of Prabhupada. Although every living being is a child of God, Lord Brahma here makes a special claim because he takes birth on a lotus flower that emanates from the navel of Narayana, the personality of Godhead. Ultimately, all living beings are equally expansions of the transcendental body of the Supreme Lord, but Brahma has an intimate relationship with the Lord because of the activities of universal creation. So, he uses the prefix vi, in the word vinirgata, that's in the word-for-word translation, came out, vinirgata, to beg the Lord's special mercy. Lord Brahma is called Aja because he is not born from any mother, but rather emanates directly from the body of the Lord. As Srila Prabhupada states in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is naturally concluded that the mother of Brahma is Narayana. On these grounds, Brahma is requesting a special forgiveness for his offenses. Now this text, or these three verses that we're focusing on this evening, take up a very special place in Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami's Chaitanya Charitamrita. Somebody sent to me, and I think I forwarded it around, one devotee, I think he's in the Czech Republic, Bhaktajan Maris, he went through the entire Chaitanya Charitamrita, indicating where the references that Krishnadas Kaviraj uses within the text of Chaitanya Charitamrita. Besides, Lord Chaitanya said, there's scriptural reference and scriptural reference and scriptural reference. And there are a humongous number of so many scriptural references to illuminate or embellish or illustrate Lord Chaitanya's teachings, his life and teachings. And at the end of this, who knows how long it took him to make this compilation, Bhaktisiddhanta makes this remark. At the time of cosmic annihilation, if there's a devastation of the world, make sure you take with you Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if for some reason you cannot carry all those, then you can leave aside Bhagavad Gita and take Srimad Bhagavatam and Chaitanya Charitamrita. And if it's just not possible to take both, then leave Srimad Bhagavatam and take Chaitanya Charitamrita, because it expresses the conclusive truths of all the Vedas within the text. So, this is a nice illustration. This is embedded within the 3 verses that we're discussing this evening. Krishnadas Kaviraj expands it out and explains it in great detail because it's packed up and maybe we wouldn't catch it. So I'm going to read it's Adi Lila chapter 2, starting with text 30. We'll go back to 28. Narayana and Sri Krishna are the same personality of Godhead, but although they are identical, their bodily features are different. This personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, has 2 hands and holds a flute, whereas the other, Narayana, has 4 hands with conch wheel, mace, and lotus. Prabhupada's purport says the High Court judge and the man in his home. Same person, just a different, how he acts and functions differently in different settings. But same entity, same person, same judge and the man at home. So now text 30 is this verse that we just recited. Text 13 of Canto 10, Chapter 14. And the same translation is there. And there's a more lengthy purport. This statement, which is from Srimad Bhagavatam 10:14-14, was spoken by Lord Brahma in his prayers to Lord Krishna. Actually, that's the next one. Sorry about that. That's the next one. Okay, we'll go to the next one. We covered 13. Quickly, here's 14. O Lord of Lords, you are the seer of all creation. You are indeed everyone's dearest life. Are you not, therefore, my father, Narayana? Narayana refers to one whose abode is in the water, born from Nara, Garbhadakshay Vishnu. And that Narayana is your plenary portion. All your plenary portions are transcendental. They are absolute and not creations of Maya. So, here I'm just going to read the verses from Chaitanya Charitamrita. After Brahma had offended Krishna by stealing his playmates and calves, Brahma begged the Lord's pardon for his offensive act and prayed for the Lord's mercy. Quote, I took birth from the lotus that grew from your navel. Thus you are both my father and my mother, and I am your son. Parents never take seriously the offenses of their children. I therefore beg your pardon and ask for your benediction. That was how the previous section ended. Like a pregnant mother, the child, when her womb is kicking, she doesn't take offense. Krishna said, Oh Brahma, your father is Narayana, but I am but a cowherd boy. How can you be my son? Brahma replied, Are you not Narayana? You are certainly Narayana. Listen as I state my proofs, and it's starting right here. All living beings within the material and spiritual worlds are ultimately born of you, for you are the supersoul of them all. As the earth is the original cause and shelter of all pots made of earth, so you are the ultimate cause and shelter of all living beings. The word Nara refers to the aggregate of all living beings, and the word Ayana refers to the refuge of them all. You are therefore the original Narayana. This is one reason. Please listen as I state the second. So now, what we're doing here is we're going to Krishnadas Kaviraj's explanation, his unpacking of all of this, okay. Krishna is the Ayana, or the refuge, of all Naras, or the aggregate of all living entities. So Krishna is the original Narayana, the aggregate of all living entities, refuge. Narayana. That's within this verse 14. Then he continues. The direct lords of the living beings are the Purusha incarnations. But your opulence and power are more exalted than theirs. Therefore, you are the primeval Lord, the original Father of everyone. They, the Purushas, are protectors of the universes by your power. You protect those who are the shelter of all living beings. You are the original Narayana. So that's this. There's Narayana who lies down in the ocean. There's Narayana in Vaikuntha, and there's the original Narayan. That is what he showed Brahma. He, Krishna, is within Krishna, or part of the totality of Krishna, is Narayana, and Narayana is his expansion, so he's the original, the Adi Narayana, and so many Narayanas. So you're the shelter, the one who gives shelter to all living entities. You're the original Narayan. That's stated here. Krishna is the source of the Purusha avatars. That is, he protects and invests potency in the Purushas, who in turn are the shelters of all living beings. Now we'll hear the third. We'll also go to the direct translation of this from the Bhagavatam. O my Lord, O Supreme Personality of Godhead, kindly hear my third reason. There are many countless universes and fathomless transcendental Vaikunthas, both in this material world and in the transcendental world, you see, ayana, you see all the deeds of all living beings in past, present, and future. Since you are the witness of all such deeds, you know the essence of everything. All the worlds exist because you oversee them. None can live, move, or even have their being without your supervision. You oversee the wanderings of all living beings. For this reason also you are the primeval Lord, Narayana. Now, it's a quiz question. What's the Brahma Samhita verse that says what we just read?
Brahma.
No. Angani yasya sakadendriya vritti manti pashyanti kalayanti chiram chiganti. He's overseeing everything, and because he's overseeing everything, everything's doing what it's doing. And he's the witness of everything. Of course, there's other witnesses, but he's the primary witness. So, Narayana. Krishna oversees the wanderings, ayana, of all living beings. Nara. Again, the same word Nara, being the aggregate of all living beings. He is the overseer of all of them in the spiritual and the material realm. So here's what Brahma says. Brahma replied, "What? Krishna says, Brahma, I can't understand what you're saying. Lord Narayana is he who sits in the hearts of all living beings." Now that's the Kshirodakshay Vishnu. And lies down on the waters of the Karana ocean. That's Karnadakshay Vishnu or Mahavishnu. So Narayana refers, the Purusha avatars, this goes back to, in the commentary of the Acharyas, it in detail goes over all this. Canto 1, Chapter 3, verses 1, verses 2, verses 3. This is the Purusha avatars. Because Chapter 3 of Canto 1 is a response to the question, please describe the forms of the Lord as they appear in the world, and starts with the Purusha avatars. And from the Purusha avatars, all other forms come. So it starts with the Purusha avatars. And the Purusha avatars, in one sense, is one avatar, one entity, Vishnu, with different functions, lying on the causal ocean, lying on the Garbhodak ocean and the Kshirodak ocean. They all have their special oceans, because there's different functions. But it's one entity, one Vishnu, so that's Narayana. The term Narayana is being used in all three cases. So Krishna is saying, Brahma, I can't understand what you're saying. Lord Narayana is he who sits in the hearts of all living beings and lies down in the waters of the Karna ocean. Brahma replied, what I've said is true. The same Lord, Narayana, who lives on the waters and in the hearts of all living beings, is but a plenary portion of you. The Karnadakshay Vishnu, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, and Kshirodakshay forms of Narayana all create in cooperation with the material energy. In this way, they are attached to Maya, although it's said they're not. These three Vishnus lying in the water are the supersoul of everything. The supersoul of all the universes is known as the first Purusha. Garbhodakshay Vishnu is the supersoul of the aggregate of living entities, and Kshirodakshay Vishnu is the supersoul of each individual living entity. Superficially, we see that these Purushas have a relationship with Maya, but above them, in the fourth dimension, is Lord Krishna, who has no contact with the material energy. And it goes on with more philosophy. So this section, these 3 verses, is an important expansion on one of our most important verses of the whole of the Srimad Bhagavatam, is Ete Changsa Kala Pungsang Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. We all know that verse. And according to Jiva Goswami, it's the primary verse upon which the entire Srimad Bhagavatam rests. And all other verses of the Bhagavatam are expansions from that verse. And in this little section that we're covering this evening, it is philosophically, Lord Brahma, the original preceptor of our Sampradaya, is explaining or speaking that message. So I'm going to now read the Bhaktivedanta purport. Actually, it's Prabhupada's disciples, for text 14, and we'll go to 15. Are you not the original Narayan, the Supreme Controller, since you are the soul of everything, of every embodied being, and the eternal witness of all created realms? Indeed, Lord Narayan is your expansion. And he is called Narayana because he's the generating source of the primeval water of the universe. He is real, not a product of your illusory Maya. Purport. In Chaitanya Charitamrita, Adi Leela, chapter 2, text 30, we read it. Srila Prabhupada comments on this verse as follows, and we already read it. In his commentary on this verse, Srila Sanatana Goswami has elaborately explained the expansion of the Vishnu, or Narayana, incarnations from the original form of Godhead, Lord Sri Krishna. The essence is that although Lord Brahma was born from Lord Narayana, meaning Garbhodakshay Vishnu, Brahma now understands that Narayana himself, Garbhodakshay Vishnu, is a mere expansion of the original personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, or the original Narayana, or the original source of everything. He's expanding on that Eti Changsa Kala Pungsa Krishnastu Bhagavan Swayam. Now the commentary runs for about 6 pages, from different acharyas, because of its importance. Jiva Goswami's commentary is 5 pages. But do you want to hear the Sanatana Goswami commentary? Yeah? Okay. Narayana, here's how it goes. Narayana is one of your forms. Quote, the action of lying on the water and producing entities is an upadhi. Now, we're familiar in the Hare Krishna movement with upadhi having to do with living entities. Like, thinking in terms of the body. I'm a man or a woman, or I'm American or Indian, or I'm, tall or short, or I'm fat or skinny, or I'm male or female, or whatever it is. The label, I am something, that's not who we are, but it's a covering of who we really are. That's an upadhi. So sarva upadhi vanir muktam. That's how we're used to hearing it. In his Sandarbhas, Jiva Goswami explains upadhis in a more fundamental way, which is how it's being used here. The classic is when there's a puddle or a pond or something covering the water, covering the land, the pond or the small body of water, that's an upadi, because it's really land and the water's just covering some portion of the land. So when you look at it, you say that's a lake or a pond, but that's an upadi. There are ways of imposing upadis on Krishna. So thinking of Krishna, the action of lying on the water and producing entities is an upadi. If that is false, then is not Narayana also false? That's the question. The water is true, like, there is a pond or lake. Not that the pond or the lake is false. The water is true. So the Garbhodak ocean is also not false. Not produced from your Maya. Thus, the form of Narayana is also true. That meaning is indicated by the word api. Since your pastimes are real, the shelter of the pastimes, your body, which assists in the pastimes, must be real. Since the water arose from an avatar of Bhagavan, the water must be real. Since it is not illusory, it is a real object. Narayana must also be a real object. Though Brahma experienced that Krishna was greater than Narayana, Brahma mentioned him as Narayana out of fear. With respect, he says, "You are not Narayana. O Lord of the universe, you are not Narayana." Because from him comes the water that generates the living beings. He is only your Angsa. And then Sanatana Goswami quotes from 11th Canto, Chapter 8. When the primeval Narayana accepted the form of the Purusha, he created the universe from the 5 elements produced from himself, and then entered within the universe by his own portion. Then he again refers to a later verse in this chapter, which we'll cover shortly, next couple of days. Text 32 of this same chapter 14. Narayana, Purushottama, accepted the form of the Purusha. It will be said that Krishna is the Purna Purushottama. That's Brahma's statement later on. You are the witness of all the universes, with all their planets. Brahma said, what is your glory? When unlimited universes pass through the pores of your body, just like particles of dust pass through the openings of a screened window, when you create and destroy. I find it interesting. They apparently had screens during Brahma's time. During the time that Krishna appeared. He, Brahma, had at this time witnessed personally millions of universes within Vrindavan, and there was only one Narayana. There was one Narayana for each universe. You are the Atma of all the millions of universes, with all their viraja forms, or totality of jivas, in whom reside the individual jivas. It has been said, here it gives some references from Canto 10, Chapter 1. Thereafter, having heard of the distress of Mother Earth, Brahma, with Mother Earth, Shiva, and all the Devatas, approached the shore of the milk ocean. After reaching the shore of the ocean of milk, the Devatas, with great attention, worship Vishnu, the master of the whole universe, the supreme God of all gods, who provides for everyone and diminishes everyone's suffering by reciting the Purusha Sukta. And Purusha Sukta is from Rig Veda. It's honoring the Purusha avatars. So they knew who they were going to see, and they're offering suitable prayers. Since the form of Krishna appeared from worship of the Purusha called Narayana, Shirdaksha Vishnu, the Antaryami of the Virat form, Krishna is called Narayana, or the original Narayana, or the Purusha. So why do you say he's not Narayana? Then some additional references is now going to Canto 1, Chapter 3, verses 1 through 3. That's where Sanatan goes next. That is true, but listen. Here's the 3 verses. First of all, the Supreme Lord accepted the form of the eternal first Purusha, like the moon for creating the universes from Mahatattva and other elements. After Garbhodaksha Vishnu lay on the water and went into trance, Brahma, Lord of the universal creation, appeared from the lotus on the water of his navel, in the water from his navel. The expanse of planets is imagined to be situated at various places on his limbs. This form of the Lord is pure sattva, unmixed with rajas and tamas, and is composed of eternity, knowledge, and bliss. The meaning is this: Bhagavan is the Supreme Person. At the beginning of creation, manifested the form of the Purusha with a desire to create the planets with Mahat and other elements by his glance. The Purusha is endowed with 16 parts. 8 are the mystic powers, he lists them. 6 are the powers of Bhagavan, the 2 remaining, Lila Shakti and Kripa Shakti, are Shaktis of Vishnu for himself and others. Lila is for his happiness and Kripa is for others. Got it? 18, his mystic cities, there's 6. 8. 8 plus 6 is Bhagavan features. 8 plus 6, 14. And 2 more. Lila Shakti and Kripa Shakti. This is the first Purusha from which Mahat Tattva arises. The second form appears within the universe. So it's long. It's just like he's unfolding. From Krishna comes all these things. I don't need to go through it all. You can, I'll share it with you. You have a copy, you can share it with them. It goes on for some more pages. The conclusion is Krishna is the source, and his direct expansions are also Narayan, he being the original Narayan. Narayan being used, in this case, interchangeable with the Vishnu forms, the Purusha avatars. He's the Adi Narayana from which the Purushas come. And all of their potencies come from him. He's investing potencies in them to do what they do. Here's interesting. One should not say that Krishna appeared from worship of Shirdaksha Vishnu, but it is stated in this way so that the Devatas could easily receive his mercy on the bank of the milk ocean. The intention is not to say that he is an expansion of Shirdaksha Vishnu. He quotes the Sanskrit. The Lord appeared there to give mercy to the Devatas, Padma Purana. By the worship performed by the Devatas, Purushottama appeared. Purna Purushottama appeared, along with all his expansions. That is the correct perception. Sridhar Swami agrees. Commenting on Bhagavatam 10.2.9, he says, I appear, Krishna's, I appear with my angsa form, which glances at Maya. It's a little technical, but the basis and support for our acceptance that Krishna is the original personality of Godhead is right here in these verses. It rests on that one particular verse in chapter 3, canto 1, 28. And this is expanding it, and our acharyas are giving us the scriptural references that give the support why, there's different ways of doing this, but it's why we accept Krishna as the original personality of Godhead. Now, here's text 15, and this is where we're going to conclude. My dear Lord, if your transcendental body, which shelters the entire universe, is actually lying on the water, then why were you not seen by me when I searched for you? And why, though I could not envision you properly within my heart, did you then suddenly reveal yourself? So there's two parts here. This lotus coming from his navel, this is now explained in the commentary on this verse, is one of the limbs, avayava. So Brahma, being very intelligent, when he was born, he's on a lotus flower. He heard some splashing, and he put 2 and 2 together and came up with 4. And said, if I climb down the stem, then I'll find out where I came from. Very logical. And he climbed down the stem and climbed down the stem and climbed down the stem, and as far as he went, he couldn't reach the end of the stem. Because that was he understood. It's not by empiric research I'm going to understand my source. And how long was that stem? Well, it's a limb of Vishnu. And that's sensible. Just like he has 4 arms, those are limbs, and 2 legs, those are limbs. He has a lotus coming from his navel, that's another limb. It's spiritual. Because I used to ponder on this as like a young brahmachari. Up on the top there, that's Brahma, and he's going to create a universe. So where does the spiritual end and the material begin? His body, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, is all spiritual, Satchitananda Vigraha. So what's with the stem? Is that spiritual or material? Anyway, here's confirmation from our acharyas, it's spiritual. And because Vishnu didn't want to find the end of that which is spiritual, he couldn't find the end to that which is spiritual. Because you can't find by the process of speculation. And then the other part, he said, by my meditation, I couldn't see you. So by our own effort, we can't either. Here's a nice image, the cover of Brahma Samhita, where there's Brahma, and there's the splashing water of the Garbhodak ocean, and there's the stem. So he did the empiric method. Where's my origin? And he couldn't find his origin by the empiric method. He reached that conclusion, and then he heard tapa. So then he knew what to do. So that's the end. Now I'm going to read the translation and purport for 15, and we'll see if there's some discussion. We already read the translation for 15. Here's the BBT purport. Lord Brahma here refers to his experience at the dawn of cosmic creation as described in the second canto of the Bhagavatam, Lord Brahma took birth on the seat of a giant lotus whose stem emanated from the navel of Narayana, Garbhodakshay Vishnu. Brahma was bewildered as to his whereabouts, function, and identity, and therefore he tried to trace out the source of the lotus stem. Searching for clear information, unable to find the personality of God, had returned to his seat and engaged in severe austerities, having been ordered to do so by the transcendental voice of the Lord, who could be heard but not seen. After long meditation, Brahma saw the Lord, but then again lost sight of him. Thus, Brahma concludes that the transcendental body of the personality of Godhead is not material, but rather an eternal, spiritual form endowed with inconceivable mystic potencies. In other words, Lord Brahma should not have challenged the personality of Godhead, the Lord of all mystic powers. So there's, in these verses, there's this appeal for forgiveness, like the mother and father will forgive the child. So he's appealing like a child to mother and father, specifically calling him father. And, I'm a little boy and you're the firstborn living being in the universe. How do you say I'm your father? Bro, consider what you're saying. So he's using his empiric conclusions. They're right conclusions. And why what he's saying is true. So let's go back to this slide that has the 3 reasons. In these verses, but with the assistance of Krishnadas Kaviraj, he's unpacking it. Krishna is the ayana, or he's the refuge, of all Naras. So he is Narayana. He's the original Narayana. Now, down below number 3, ayana has a slightly different meaning. Refuge and up in number 1, and overseeing the wandering is another dictionary definition of ayana. So he oversees the wanderings, ayana, of all living beings in the spiritual and the material realm. And the middle one, Krishna is the source of the Purusha avatars. He protects and invests potency in the Purushas, who in turn are the shelters of all living beings. So he's the shelter of those who give shelter. He protects and invests potencies in those who give shelter. So he's the original Narayana. And Narayana is his father, so you're my father. Now these are philosophical points, but it's not just philosophy. It's who it is that when we hear Krishna's pastimes in Vrindavan, who is it that we're hearing the pastimes of? He's the original source of everything. Although he's playing in pastimes, his Leela Shakti is engaging him and others, his devotees, in most amazing pastimes. Now this is a deep science. It's a spiritual science. And supposing we don't know the spiritual science, it's still a spiritual science, and it's still wonderful and it has great effect. Just hearing and participating in the hearing and chanting process without knowing all the science. At the same time, the more we have an appreciation, at least in our stage, we're not at the spontaneous stage yet, at our stage, nourishing the faith in that place of shelter that we're striving to give our full submission to understand who that person is, it helps. It strengthens our shelter taking. because he's the worthy one. It's not just a notion. He's the source of everything, including the Vishnu forms, from whom Brahma comes, and from Brahma comes all. He's the grandfather of all living entities in the universe. It's a very different worldview, a very fundamentally contradictory worldview than the worldview that people that go through modern education system learn, and that people of the world commonly accept and live by. Is a very different worldview. So, cultivating this worldview has its challenges, and the river is moving very swiftly the opposite direction, and we're going upstream. It's not. It has its challenges because we are also, we've been breathing and eating and drinking this worldview since we were born in a world that has a different worldview. So it's being a theistic person or religious person, that's nice. But where is it meant to take us besides go to heaven? Go to the place where good people go. What's the goal? And if you say the goal is love of God, well, tell me more about Him. Why should I love Him? And how do we know He's God? Sambandha Gyan gives strength to avideya. It nourishes the faith in our activities. So supposing somebody can't follow all this, it's too complicated, or their brain is puzzled by the whole thing, they're not barred from going back to Godhead, but it helps. Or it's there right in the 10th canto. All these understandings given by our original preceptor of our sampradaya. So it's becomes us to try to understand what his realization is, what message it is that he's imparting. It's why it's in the 10th canto. It's why it's expanded in Chaitanya Charitamrita. And we spent the whole time just on 3 verses. So let's see if there's some discussion. Krishna Krishna. He's having a hard time turning the microphone on. It's on?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Maharaj, one of the slides there is, can you go back?
Say which one you want.
It says, no. It says, he protects and invests potency in the Purusha. For Krishna, he protects and invests potency in Purusha avatars. He protects, I couldn't catch Maharaj.
He's the shelter. He's the shelter. It's not like they're in trouble, so he's got to go protect them. Not like that. He's the sustaining potency. He is the source of everything, including that one. Let's put it this way. What happens at the time of cosmic annihilation to Garbhodakshay Vishnu and Kshirodakshay Vishnu? What happened to them? Because they're expanded, but Karnadakshay Vishnu remains in the causal ocean. So what's the basis and support of everything? Krishna. He's the basis and support of everything. Yeah. No, what happened? You disconnected? Okay, now we're reconnected. Okay. Maybe, I mean, protects is the word that you're focused on. I can't recall exactly where this came from, if it came from our Acharya's summarization directly or not. For me, I don't have a problem with protects, but his sustains, I suppose. He sustains and invests potencies because he's the basis and support. So he's the basis and support and invests potency. How's that? You're more comfortable with that. I'll change it. Go ahead.
Guru Maharaj, this is like a technical question that we were having when we were reading the about in the third chapter. So Garbhodakashaya Vishnu has the stem, the lotus stem, and then Brahma is on top, and he goes down to find the root. But we also hear the stem is the 14 planetary systems.
But they're not there yet.
So not manifested.
Yes.
So all these hellish planets, everything is Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is on him. Everything is resting.
Yes. Now here's a detail. We tend to think of a stem as like what a stem. It's a tube, and it has dimensions that look like this because it's a stem. However, within that stem, all the planetary systems, which means the universal form. And the universal form has dimension. So it's not just this tube. So we have to think out of the box because it's not a material stem, it's this Garbhodakshaya Vishnu's stem. It's a detail.
And one more question from yesterday evening. When we were hearing yesterday evening about how Krishna may do different things at different times.
No, different things at the same time.
Meaning, like he may address our each person at different times.
Okay.
And then also that how any kind of difficulty that happens is assisting the devotee, uprooting the devotee's attachments, something like that.
Krishna is assisting the devotees to overcome their nescience.
Yeah, yes, Guru Maharaj. So the question was that when I or someone is going through some difficulty or particular challenge, like anatta-nivritti kind of a challenge, and there is an understanding that it's for Krishna is kindly helping and there's purification happening, but while going through, sometimes we see that that in some people it becomes a source of distance with the bhakti process, or it becomes
distance between them and who?
Between them and the process of bhakti they're practicing. It becomes like weekend or something. So how to, even though there is an understanding that it is for my purification, but still there's inability to take it.
I'm familiar with that happening. Devotees go through that phase. So?
The question that's coming to me is that if the devotee is becoming distant to the practice, then how is it really nourishing to them? How is it helping them? Is it?
Well, it depends on what happens after that phase of time. let's say the same thing in a different way. Supposing there's there's attachment to the fruits of their piety instead of attachment to Krishna. And one of the things that we need to let go of is attachment to the enjoyment mood of the fruits of our piety. So I'm accustomed to that, or somebody may be accustomed to that. And so Krishna is removing that. So now, wait a minute, this thing that I'm accustomed to being the enjoyer of and feeling comfortable with is taken away. So it's not exactly that the process of bhakti, it's the mix that's within the process of bhakti is being tested or removed. Then there's some choices that such a person you just described has to make. Choice of faith. Instead of having faith that's mixed, am I prepared to have faith that's unmixed? And in that liminal space, that in between, the mix and the getting unmixed, getting pure, there may be a slackening, or at least a sensation that my bhakti is becoming weak. And it may even that bhakti becomes weak, because I really didn't have full faith in Krishna, I had faith in mix. So it's an opportunity. It's not a guarantee the outcome is going to be their bhakti is going to be stronger. Krishna could just leave us alone, let us muddle along and, like little kids. But he shows special mercy when he does things like this. And we should understand that Krishna will give us a test that we cannot pass. But it may have the appearance that bhakti becomes weakened during that transition from mixed to pure. But it's not going to get stronger if he doesn't remove the mix or take away the false shelter. It's uncomfortable. I look at it as, that's good. Being uncomfortable isn't good. It doesn't feel good. But when we understand the bigger picture of what's going on, so that's why we need good association, and we need to continue with our hearing and chanting done nicely. And then we can see that uncomfortable patch that we're passing through in a big picture, wholesome way, and stay the course. It will, in the long run, it'll make our bhakti stronger. But we could just check out too. That's another possibility. Oh, it's too difficult. Krishna's not nice. I thought he would be nice.
Sometimes the question is like, why is Krishna not giving me a break? It's like one after the other.
Well, my simple way of speaking about that, you can go into detail, but you've heard this before. When you surrender to Krishna, please understand it's on his terms, not yours. He knows doctor knows best. The doctor says, take this medicine and follow this diet. So, come on, doctor, be nice. Give me a break. I like those foods. Go ahead, tell me I can take those foods. Look, you take those foods, it's going to make your disease worse. Come on, doctor. Anyway, we don't negotiate with Krishna. He knows what we need, and we're happy that he's taking that special interest in us and giving us what we need. Although it seems like one thing after the next. There's a message. I just got a letter today from somebody that said, I got the message. This is a place of misery. I want to wrap up my material business. You know, he's in the retirement stage of his life. I want to diminish my activities that are unnecessary material activities as fully and completely as quickly as possible, and prepare for my eternal life. And it's, he's a senior citizen. He's been through a lot. He's, really good-hearted person, etc. But one thing after the next. So he got the message. Not a place of enjoyment. Now, how long that mood is going to last, we'll see. I believe it will, because he's a deep person, not a superficial person. But sometimes it's one thing after the next, because we don't get it. What if it's just one thing? We're just hearing. We're dull. Okay?
Shari Mataji's question. Sometimes we hear saying vibhutis. What does it mean? Does it refer to Krishna's different expansions or his different energies? Vibhutis?
You'll find a very nice definition in Canto 1, Chapter 3. I invite her to go look it up, but I'll say it in simple summary. The Krishna is known as Bhagavan. We just read he has 6 spiritual opulences. Those are called bhagas, and he's Bhagavan. And he has material opulences. Those are vibhutis. We could say vibhutivan. In this world there are things, and the superlative of those things are his vibhutis. His opulences in the material world, the excellences of all things of this world, those are his vibhutis. And there are ways, the Vibhuti Yoga chapter is ways of remembering Krishna by seeing the superlative of all things, that's Krishna, in all categories of things.
And then Kirti Prabhu's question. What is the difference between plenary expansions and partial expansions?
It's technical. So the question is technical, so he's going to have to get a technical answer. And it has to do with the degree of qualities that originally exist in Krishna that are present in his expansions, his portion, the Sanskrit terms are angsa and kala, or sva angsa and kala. So if he wants to really rub his hands together and get into it, he can read Teachings of Lord Chaitanya, which is a summary study of what's in Chaitanya Charitamrita, and get it in detail. But in simple, high-level expression, it's degree of the qualities and opulences of Krishna are more complete or less complete. The portion of a plenary portion describes the hierarchy, because they're all eternal. It's not like once upon a time there wasn't the portions of a plenary portion and Krishna said, I think we need some portions of plenary portions. Boop, there they were. It's not chronological, it's hierarchical. And the fullness, they're expansions of an expansion. And there's commonly, they're of the same tattva, but there's less of the fullness, and there's a particular function they perform and so forth. Therefore, a portion of a plenary portion, as opposed to the plenary portion or the direct expansion. It's hierarchical and completeness, those two things.
And this is Radha's question, Atulya Mataji's daughter. If it is an offense to question an act or decision that we think from our side that it was bad because we are thinking that Krishna did a bad thing. And then we ask question to get why Krishna did something and clarify.
Radha, we're shaking our head like we're not sure what you mean. But let's start with this. Krishna is all good absolute. So when Krishna steals butter, it's fantastic. Because it's his butter. And he's stealing is not stealing. He's enjoying a pastime with the gopis by stealing butter. It's not bad. Or Krishna runs from the battlefield because Kshatriyas, soldiers, warriors, fighters, heroes, don't run from the battlefield, but Krishna ran from the battlefield. And he's celebrated. There's a name for Krishna because he ran from the battlefield. Ranchor. But it's not cowardice, it's a pastime. He wanted to take Kalyavana before King Muchukunda, give King Muchukunda some service to cinder him and wake him up, and then so he could then see Krishna. So it was a pastime. And then he ran from Jarasandha. That was another purpose. So, in short, Krishna is all good absolute, and whatever he does, there's nothing bad, and anything that Krishna does, it's all good absolute. Now we can't imitate what Krishna does. If we steal butter or steal anything, then it's stealing. Radha, you've heard this story that Prabhupada has told. There was a celebrated conquering king whose name I can't remember. King something or other. Maybe, huh?
Alexander.
King Alexander. Okay. So he was conquering, and in one of the places he was conquering, he found a man that was guilty of stealing a cucumber. So he was going to punish him. And the man said, look, I'm stealing cucumbers and you're stealing countries. So how is what I'm doing any different? If I should be punished, you should be punished. What do you think? And Alexander said, you're right. They'll set you free. We can't imitate Krishna. We can't steal. Or we can't do what Krishna does. But when Krishna does, it's all good. Not like Alexander's conquering countries was good. But what Krishna does is good. It's for the benefit of everyone. It's all good. We can't compare ourselves to Krishna or match ourselves against what Krishna does. So there's just, I think that should answer her question.
Now, Amara Mataji's question. Tapa was recommended for Lord Brahma. But we also understand that tapa or austerity does not please Krishna as much as bhakti. How to understand this recommendation to Lord Brahma?
Well, it was a bhakti tapa. His tapa was mantra chanting. So when you do mantra chanting, your mind may say, oh no, and that's tapa for you. You chant anyway. Okay? That's it?
This question is from Prabala Madhuri Mataji. This question is related to yesterday's evening class. Lord Brahma, being the super intelligent being, was able to recognize his mistake and ask for forgiveness. I, being so tiny, sometimes may not be in a position to even understand that and put myself in the forefront and keep doing things. My question is, how can I come out of that ignorant situation or condition?
Ask your husband. He'll tell you what you're doing wrong. If you have close association of someone that knows you, they care about you, they're not interested in controlling and managing you, they're interested in helping you grow in Krishna consciousness. That's one way that you can understand things about yourself that you can't see about yourself. We had this whole exercise in Naperville about blind spots. Blind spots meaning each one of us don't see things in ourselves that others see. Now, not just fault finder people, but well-wishing people. There's fault finder people anyway, but well-wishing people, they may see things that we don't see, and we just don't see it. So it's good to have association of persons who your heart is open to, and they can help you see your blind spots. That's one method. Here's another method. The purification method teaches us or reveals to us things in our heart that we never knew were there before. I mean, it's a common experience of all devotees. Persons that aren't devotees may not have that experience, but certainly devotees have that experience. Before we began the bhakti process, we weren't just not aware of XYZ things in the heart that were, unclean or undesirable, even embarrassing. And then we became devotees, and then we came to understand, whoa, look at that, and look at that, and oh gosh, I better put my bead bag down, because I'm seeing too many impure things. So the bhakti process helps us identify what those impure things are that we are otherwise not aware of. And then third is reading scripture. Scripture is also purifying and points things out that are operating within our existence, our being, our subtle being at least, and also the gross sensual side, that are just not so good. They're unwholesome. So those are three methodologies to help us at least recognize what we're not presently recognizing. And then there's the thing that, then we recognize and then we do it again and do it again and do it again and do it again. And that's another phenomena that we all know. So some similar remedies, the same similar remedies are good.
Guru Maharaj, Surabhi Mataji from China. Since the material world is manifested and unmanifested again and again, so does this mean Mahavishnu exists eternally?
Yes, lying on the causal ocean, eternally. And his breathing in brings the universes in, and his exhaling sends the universes out. He's eternally existing. The creation process has a beginning and end, but he doesn't. Okay, we're done? More?
Krishna.
You're on.
Since we have been reading Krishna's life in the Govardhan Hill,
Yeah.
and the wonder of the cowherd man about Krishna's
Yeah.
pastimes, I have been appreciating more and more about what Prabhupada has done. because I think how we view the world has a lot to do with how we would live in that world.
Yes.
And Prabhupada has done something so amazing that he was able to turn around everything that modern education was
Yeah.
doing for so many people.
Yes.
And the outcome of modern education, is because it's so much within the modes of nature. The outcome of it is at the end of life, most people are very fearful. But what Prabhupada has done is just so amazing. He just turned everything around, and a devotee who can truly take shelter of Krishna and Prabhupada's instructions will become fearless and transcendental. So
Now, there are people that are pious, religious, they have their faith. They also speak about being fearless. I mean, even Socrates was fearless about death because it wasn't just notional. He somehow had some realization that he was not the body. And there's so many anecdotal stories of persons that are not well acquainted with the Vedic paradigm and at least express their fearlessness about death. I'm thinking specifically someone from a Christian tradition, he's ready to meet God. Because that's his conviction, he's going to meet God. That's where he's going. At the same time, his activities are, from a Vedic paradigm, Vedic perspective, not okay. But so faith has a prominent factor, but faith also needs to be nourished with proper knowledge, and then proper knowledge driving our proper conduct. Or here's another example, people having conviction, the jihadi people, they're convinced, otherwise how could they do what they do? I'm going to go to heaven. I'm going to blow up my body and blow up a lot of other people and, fly that airplane into the World Trade Towers, and I'm going to heaven. So it's the condition of having no fear can just be like really thick ignorance. Something else? You have some online thing? No? You have? Okay, take the microphone. It's 8:00, 3 minutes to 8.
Pretty much, Lord Brahma, after fully realizing the process of mantra that he received, and he performs his activity on creation. So when he comes out of that fully realized to perform his activity, does I'm trying to understand, does he carry Krishna in the heart and performs his activities, or?
Well, you had an option, or what?
I've been trying to understand this, but I never was able to.
Well, he's a pure devotee. So how does a pure devotee see their relationship with Krishna? It depends on that particular devotee, how they see their relationship with Krishna. Does he see Super Soul within his heart as he's going about his duties? Minimally, he's feeling the sense of connection with Krishna at all times. Otherwise, how could he? Where is he getting the intelligence to do what he does from? And when it's turned, let's just say When Hiranyaksha did what he did and the earth fell out of its orbit and down to the bottom of the Garbhodak ocean, and the demigods, help! So what did Brahma do? He was contemplating what to do. And as he was contemplating what to do, Varaha appeared from his nostril. So now, back to your question. Was he seeing Krishna within his heart? We don't have any indication if he was seeing Krishna in his heart. He just kind of said, "Hey, Krishna, pick up the phone, please. I need some help."
Same as like Uddhava was speaking, you were speaking in the morning.
So what one is experiencing is very dynamic and personal, and I don't know of any specific statement that says what you just said he was experiencing. He's experiencing a connection with Krishna in probably a very dynamic way. Not always the same thing, static, but dynamic.